I've played every game in the Shadow Warrior series that I've come across, and I've enjoyed every single one of them for exactly what they were. Over-the-top, ultra-violent spectacle shooters, Doom-likes if you will. I'm all about a fast-paced splatterfest. Let's make it rain. How's it going? It's Hesh from No Frills. Today I'm checking out Shadow Warrior 3, a short but sweet and juicy first-person arena shooter. Let's get into it. Shadow Warrior 3 knows what it is and what it wants to be, and executes it damn near perfectly. I loved it. Classic run and gun, monster-filled arenas with ridiculous weapons and over-the-top crazy bosses. Cool, man. Top that off with a smart-ass protagonist, you're having a good time. I prefer faster moving characters and generally find myself playing like rogues and other similar classes that move fast. I don't mind dealing a little bit less one-shot damage if I can make up for it with DPS and traversal. The game is very well paced, and even though it's completely linear, little bits of the story will come out as you're parkouring from arena to arena, giving you a much needed break from the action. They've kept things a bit familiar here with wall running, a double jump, you've got a slide, it's a little bit weak in my opinion. You've got a grappling hook that's really useful. You can pull in both enemies and some of the explosive environmental objects, that's always useful. There's also a dash, you can use this at any time, mid-air, change direction. That is awesome. Once you've made it to an arena, you'll not only be running around like a madman trying to avoid enemies, pick up health and ammo, you'll also want to turn your attention to some of the environmental hazards that they've built into each arena. Some of these are really freaking sweet. I had an absolute blast just kiting a bunch of enemies into some of these meat grinders. Let's go. Splat. One of the things I've always loved about Shadow Warrior was the sword. It's a little bit different in this iteration, but that's alright. It's fast, it's fun, and it's useful. It saved my ass a couple times. Shadow Warrior 3's got a decent number of weapons, but I wasn't really wowed by any of them, and well, that's perfectly fine. Not every game's gotta try to raise the bar, and sometimes when they do, they fall a bit flat. All the weapons here are unique in their own ways. They all have their own handling and damage type, and the bosses and enemies will respond differently to each weapon. It kinda adds a little bit of a tactical layer when it comes to your ammo depletion. Even though there are health and ammo pickups all over the maps, the game will nudge you in the right direction, encouraging you to choose the right tool for the job, rather than forcing it upon you, and I really like that. You do have chi power in the game. I say cheap power because, well, there's only one. It's kind of like a forced push, and I found it to be mostly useless. It only really helped me out a couple times, though I did get an achievement for overusing it. Your mileage may vary on that. The bosses here are awesome. The game doesn't take itself too seriously, and neither do the bosses. Their introductions are hilarious. I love it. They were all fun to fight, and you'll be seeing them again as each boss comes back as one of the regular enemies you'll be fighting as you come through each arena. Shadow Warrior has always been a bit arcadey, and this one's got some heavy nods to Doom, not that I'm complaining at all. I'm not going to say that Doom invented the glory kill or finishers, anything of the sort. We all know that's just not true. They do have some awesome ones. Shadow Warrior 3 has its own version of glory kills. They call them finishers. These show up as quick time events when an enemy's vulnerable, and I got quite a few of them in my playthrough. These things won't make or break a game for me, but they are pretty cool to look at. And here in Shadow Warrior, they are functional. You'll be ripping out spines and eyeballs and using them as weapons, or giving yourself a temporary health buff. Pretty sweet. Although there are no skill trees or experience points, you'll be collecting some upgrade orbs as you go. Some of these will be tucked off the beaten path in some little hidden areas. Not so much secret, but you won't notice them at first glance. Some of these can be a little bit tricky to get to, so keep your eyes peeled. There are achievements to get and a number of in-game challenges to complete. Once you've beaten the game, you'll unlock a chapter select and a new game plus mode. You'll also get some new difficulty ratings like hero and hardcore modes, which has permadeath. That's pretty sick. You'll be able to keep all of your upgrades on subsequent playthroughs. This will allow you to collect all the orbs that you missed, completely maxing out your character and just blasting the crap out of everything on the harder difficulties. Considering the short and sweet nature of the game, I'm really glad they made these additions because that gives it quite a bit of replayability. This is the kind of game that'll allow you to cut a couple rounds in before dinner. I had a lot of fun playing Shadow Warrior 3, but I am glad I picked it up on sale. Full disclosure, I played through the entire game on Game Pass of all things before I actually picked up a copy. I prefer to play a demo before I purchase a game, and when I do purchase, I also prefer to get DRM free for my own archival purposes. I still have my original hard copies of Diablo, StarCraft, The Orange Box, Black and White 2, the list goes on. Shadow Warrior 3 Deluxe Edition or whatever is currently sitting between $40 and $50 on Steam, and that's a bit high for me, quite honestly. It's a solid game for what it is, and I would happily pay $30. I know that $10 more seems kind of a stretch, but I would gladly spend the difference on some new content DLC, no problem at all, as long as they ship the game as is and didn't neuter it first. AAA, I'm looking at you.
How's it going? It's Hesh. If you've been on YouTube longer than 5 minutes, you no doubt had someone trying to sell you something. I was watching this Uber video a couple days back. He mentioned his USA-made, all-American, no bullshit candy, sourboys.gg. I had to try some, so I did. This shit is good, okay? I'm not being paid or sponsored or anything. I just wanted to let you know this YouTuber's got a real one. Sourboys.gg, you won't regret it.
I encountered a couple bugs here or there, nothing game-breaking or death-causing, and I actually had a bit of fun with the grappling hook kind of launching me a bit further than it was supposed to. You can recover from most out-of-bounds situations fairly easily with just a little persistence. At the end of the day, Shadow Warrior 3 is a solid game that does play it a bit safe, but I had a ton of fun with it. It's gorgeous to look at, it's easy to pick up and play, and it's really satisfying when you pull off some slick moves flying around these arenas. While I wouldn't call it a must-buy at $40 to $50, I would say if you can pick this up on sale, you definitely should grab it. That about wraps it for this one. Thanks for hanging out with me, and as always, I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Play it.
How's it going? It's Hesh. If you liked what you saw even a tiny bit, do me a favor, shoot me a like and a sub, and if you're feeling awfully generous, give me a share, man. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.